Black woman CEO's seat taken by white passenger minutes later. She grounds the entire flight. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel growing collectively. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to the story. Get up or get out. The words hit like a slap across the quiet cabin. Every head turned. Row 2 Ampere's first class was no longer a seat. It was a spotlight. The woman in yellow didn't move. She just looked up, calm eyes meeting the captain's. Her posture didn't flinch, didn't fold. She held her ground the way people do when the ground is already theirs. Beside the captain stood a man in a pale blue polo, red-faced, shaking, voice sharp with entitlement. "That's my seat," he barked, waving a platinum card like it was a badge of birthright. "She's in the wrong section. You people always try to sneak in." A murmur rippled through the cabin, gasps, side glances, the sound of quiet judgment filling air that had been peaceful seconds ago. The flight attendant hovered, unsure, eyes darting between the passengers. "Sir, please," she began, but the captain cut her off. "Ma'am, you need to move. This area is reserved for confirmed premium guests." The woman in yellow finally spoke. Her voice was soft, steady, like glass that refused to crack. "I am confirmed." The man scoffed. "Show him then. Show us all." She reached for her boarding pass, crisp, digital, glowing on her phone, but he snatched it away. "Fake," he said flatly, handing it to the captain. The captain glanced at the screen, not really reading. He'd already made up his mind. Around them, first-class passengers shifted in their seats. A young man near the window whispered, "Why don't they just check?" His seatmate murmured back, "They don't need to. Look at her." And just like that, silence turned heavy thick with what no one wanted to name. The captain leaned closer. "Ma'am, we'll have security meet you at the gate if you don't comply." The woman exhaled slowly. No words. No fight. Just that breath, the kind that carries years of déjà vu. She turned her head toward the aisle, eyes scanning the faces that were watching but not seeing. Then, calmly, "You're making a mistake." The man in blue chuckled. "No, lady, you are." The captain gestured to the attendant. "Get her off this plane." Somewhere near row 4, a phone camera clicked on. A quiet voice whispered, "This doesn't feel right." Another replied, "Keep filming. People need to see this." And as the woman in yellow straightened her back, something changed, a flicker, barely visible, but powerful. It wasn't defiance. It was certainty. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change, and we're glad you're here. Now, back to Ariana Cole, the woman they thought didn't belong. Ariana didn't move. She sat perfectly still, hands folded over the folded in-flight magazine like it was a briefing document. The captain hovered in front of her, waiting for submission. But the woman in yellow had lived her entire life being told to move out of rooms, out of meetings, out of her own seat. She had learned that stillness could be louder than shouting. Behind her, someone whispered, "Why doesn't she just go to another row?" Because it wasn't about a row. It never was. The cabin lights dimmed as the crew prepared for takeoff, but tension pulsed through every aisle like static before a storm. Ariana's gaze drifted to the window, not to escape, but to remember. Flashback. 5 years earlier, Sam Sky, different plane. She was 28, wearing a gray blazer and a heart that still believed credentials would speak louder than color. The gate agent had called her sweetheart, then quietly reassigned her seat to a more frequent flyer. Ugh. When she protested, security walked her out as if she were a threat. That day, she vowed that power would be her fluency, not apology. Back in the present, the captain cleared his throat. "Ma'am, final call. I need you to cooperate." His voice carried that corporate calm that always came before humiliation. Ariana turned to face him fully. Her tone didn't rise. "I paid for this seat, and I'm staying in it." The man in the pale blue polo barked a laugh. "You'll regret that attitude." She glanced at him once, no anger, no smile, then back to the captain. "Does your policy include verifying tickets?" she asked, "or just judging appearances?" The captain stiffened. "We treat all passengers equally." "Then prove it," she said. For a moment, silence. Then a voice from row 4, hesitant, male, young. Captain? I saw her boarding pass. It scanned green. All eyes turned. The young passenger looked down, nervous but resolute. She's telling the truth. The captain's jaw tightened. Sir, please refrain from interfering. But the damage was done. Doubt had entered the cabin. Ariana looked at the boy, just a flicker of gratitude in her eyes, then back to the man who'd claimed her seat. He was still clutching his champagne glass, as if money could sanitize arrogance. Fine, he snapped. Call whoever you need. Just get her out. The captain motioned to the intercom. Security to gate 4. Amurmur rose again uneasy, confused. Ariana didn't react. She simply reached into her blazer pocket and tapped her phone twice. No one noticed the small earpiece in her left ear activate with a soft tone. A clear voice came through, calm and efficient. Miss Cole, confirmation received. We're monitoring live. Ariana exhaled slowly. Her eyes never left the captain. He thought he was in control. He had no idea he was standing in front of the woman who owned 18% of the airline. Row 2 Amperes had become a stage. Half the cabin was pretending not to watch, the other half couldn't look away. The white passenger, the one who'd claimed her seat, leaned back smugly, sipping his drink like the verdict was already written. Unbelievable, he muttered, loud enough for her to hear. They'll let anyone on these flights now. A few passengers chuckled under their breath. Others froze, pretending to check their phones. The sound wasn't laughter, it was complicity. Ariana didn't speak. She adjusted her jacket, eyes still on the captain. The hum of the engines deepened, but no one moved. The aircraft was grounded, waiting on a decision that felt bigger than a seat dispute. Ma'am, the captain tried again, this isn't the way to resolve things. Ariana's gaze was steady. Then, show me the right way. The flight attendant Mia shifted uncomfortably beside him. She couldn't be older than 24. Her hands trembled around the passenger manifest. Captain, she said softly, her name's on the list. It's marked confirmed priority. The man in blue barked out a laugh. Priority? Dressed like that? Mia's face flushed. Ariana turned her head slightly, just enough to look him in the eye. Careful, she said quietly. You're building a record. He blinked, confused. A record? She didn't answer. From the back, a click, a phone camera. A woman with curly brown hair whispered to her seatmate, I'm filming this. People need to see what's happening. Her companion nodded. Don't stop. This is wrong. The captain noticed. Ma'am, no recording on board. But it was too late. Half the front cabin had their lenses half hidden behind coffee cups or newspapers. The air felt charged like static before lightning. Mia looked at Ariana again, her voice trembling. Maybe we can double-check the system, Captain. It could be The man in blue cut her off. No need. I know what this is. A scam. I've seen it before. Ariana turned back to him, calm as ever. What exactly have you seen? She asked. He hesitated. People. Trying to take what isn't theirs. Her lips curved slightly, not a smile, just precision. And yet here you are, in my seat. The murmur that followed was almost electric. Someone gasped. Someone else whispered, Did she just say her seat? The captain straightened. That's enough. Security's already on the way. He pressed the intercom. This is Captain Pierce, requesting assistance at Gate 4. A pause. The static hissed. Then a voice from the cockpit replied, Copy that. Ground security dispatched. Ariana closed her eyes for 1 second. When she opened them, the calm was colder. Measured. Surgical. Captain, she said evenly. When they arrive, make sure your body cameras are on. He frowned. Why? So the audit team won't have to ask later. Mia's eyes widened. Audit team? She whispered. The engines hummed quietly in the background. No one breathed too loud. For the first time, the captain hesitated something in her tone. That precision, that calm authority that didn't belong to a victim. Ariana Cole wasn't defending herself anymore. She was documenting them. The cabin door hissed open. 2 uniformed security officers stepped in navy shirts, polished boots, authority already drawn like a weapon. Passengers stiffened in their seats, phones tilted higher, pretending to stay hidden. The captain spoke first. That's her. Seat 2 Amperes, non-compliant passenger. One of the officers nodded, scanning Ariana from head to toe, then back to the man in blue. Sir, are you the complainant? He straightened immediately. Yeah, she's in my seat. Been causing trouble since boarding. Mia's voice cracked. That's not true. Quiet, the captain snapped. Ariana turned slightly toward the aisle, her expression unreadable. She didn't shrink. She didn't explain. The taller officer stepped closer, one hand hovering near his holster. Ma'am, I'm going to need to see identification. She met his gaze, calm, steady. It's in my jacket pocket, she said. You're welcome to look, but you'll want to be careful how you do it. The man blinked. Excuse me? Just advice, she replied. Some actions are hard to erase from reports. From behind, a passenger whispered, She's brave. Another murmured, She's crazy. Oh. The officer reached forward, fingertips brushing the edge of her lapel. Mia gasped. Sir, please don't. But he did, just enough to make every phone in the first-class cabin light up red. The sound of digital shutters filled the air, a collective gasp, and then silence. Ariana didn't flinch. She looked at the captain and said softly, You just turned a mistake into evidence. The captain's jaw clenched. Enough. Escort her off this plane. Wait. Mia stepped forward, trembling. Her name is on the list. She's priority verified. The captain spun. Then why wasn't she flagged at boarding? Because you deleted her tag, Ariana answered before Mia could. Every head turned. The calm in her voice landed harder than a shout. I checked, she continued. Your staff used a manual override code. That function only exists on executive-level systems. The captain's eyes flickered. How would you... No? She leaned back, folding her hands again. Because I designed it. The man in blue laughed nervously. What are you talking about? Ariana tilted her head. You wanted me out of this seat so badly, she said. You never stopped to ask who put the seat here. The cabin felt smaller now, air thick, truth heavier than turbulence. The officer nearest her stepped back, unsure, eyes darting between her and the captain. Ma'am, he said cautiously, what's your full name? She looked straight at him. Ariana Cole. Silence. The name seemed to hang in the air, unfamiliar yet powerful. From the back, someone whispered, Wait, Cole Air Holdings? Another voice answered, She's the executive director. The color drained from the captain's face. The man in blue gripped his armrest like it could save him. Ariana finally stood, smooth and unhurried. This flight, she said, is officially grounded until I say otherwise. The officer froze. You can't... She raised one eyebrow. Watch me. Oh. The air inside the cabin was motionless, like the sky itself was holding its breath. Every screen was recording. Every whisper carried the weight of something irreversible. Ariana stood in the narrow aisle, calm and centered. Her voice dropped to a near whisper, not for secrecy, but precision. Carla, she said into her earpiece, initiate Protocol 6. Include timestamp and cabin footage. From the other end came a crisp reply, firm and professional. Confirmed, Miss Cole. Protocol 6 is live. Internal ethics and compliance teams have joined the feed. The officer nearest her blinked. What's Protocol 6? Ariana met his eyes. The procedure we use when discrimination escalates under my company's logo. Phones lowered. Nobody moved. The captain stammered. This is highly irregular. No, Captain, Ariana interrupted, voice smooth as glass. What's irregular is erasing my boarding record. She stepped closer, and for the first time, the hierarchy reversed. The man in blue, the self-appointed claimant of her seat, sank back, eyes darting. You're lying, he muttered, but his voice lacked volume now. Ariana looked down at him. I built the audit system you just triggered, she said. Every swipe, every override, every slur you've spoken in this cabin, it's all being mirrored to our legal archive right now. A murmur rippled through the rows. Mia swallowed hard. The young attendant's hands trembled, not from fear, from realization. She had just watched power change form. Carla's voice returned through the earpiece. Miss Cole, confirmation from headquarters. The compliance board is live on the call. They've identified Captain Daniel Pierce and passenger Victor Haynes as primary subjects of review. Ariana's gaze flicked briefly toward them. Acknowledged. Maintain recording. Lock all flight logs. Victor, the man in blue, shot to his feet, face red. This is insane. You can't just hijack a plane's systems. Ariana turned slowly. You hijacked dignity. I'm just reclaiming it. The sentence hung in the air like a verdict. Passengers began nodding, whispering, phones still raised but now aimed at the captain, not at her. Mia finally found her voice. Captain, she said quietly, I think we should. Step back. This isn't ours to fix anymore. The captain's composure cracked. Do you have any idea who you're talking to? Ariana smiled faintly. Yes, a man who works for me. He froze. The officer glanced at his partner. Sir, maybe we should verify this. Ariana gestured toward the cockpit door. Please do. There's a plaque right above the main avionics panel. It bears my name. He hesitated, then moved. Seconds later, the sound of metal latches opening echoed through the cabin. A beat. Then, "She's right," the officer called out. Cole Air Holdings executive chair. Ariana Cole. Gasps. No music, no dramatic score, just the raw silence of realization. Ariana looked around the cabin, eyes steady, voice low but resonant. "You all just witnessed what happens when bias boards first class." And then, quieter still, "The flight isn't grounded because of me, it's grounded because of what you chose to believe." The cabin wasn't quiet anymore. It was suspended a courtroom 30,000 feet below takeoff. No one dared to move. The glow from half a dozen phone screens painted the captain's face pale, every blink caught on camera. Victor Haynes, the man who had stolen her seat, stood frozen, mouth open but soundless. His certainty had evaporated, replaced by the dawning realization that the woman he mocked might control his future flights, or end them entirely. "Miss Cole," Carla's voice came through the earpiece again, crisp and cold. "Headquarters confirms your authority to act under emergency clause. Legal observers have joined the stream." Ariana turned slightly toward the security officers. "Gentlemen, please step back. You're now witnesses, not enforcers." They exchanged a glance, then obeyed. The captain tried to recover his composure. "Miss Cole, with all due respect, this isn't protocol." "You're right," Ariana cut in, voice low, certain. "It's precedent." And she moved down the aisle slowly, the way storms move across open fields, silent but unstoppable. Every pair of eyes followed her. Mia, still near the galley, swallowed hard, then spoke up. "Captain, I think you should listen to her. I saw the deletion on the system log before we boarded." The captain's head snapped toward her. "You what?" "It wasn't an error," she said, voice shaking. "Someone manually removed her verification. I saw it happen, but I was told not to question it." A soft murmur rose through the cabin. Passengers looked from face to face, guilt, shock, vindication, all blending into a single, heavy silence. Ariana stopped halfway down the aisle, eyes still on the captain. "Carla," she said quietly, "record that testimony. Employee, Mia Lang, flight attendant, Section A." "Logged," Carla replied instantly. Victor finally broke, his voice trembling. "Look, I didn't mean anything by it, all right? I just assumed." Ariana turned to him, one eyebrow raised. "You assumed the sky had room only for people who looked like you." Her tone didn't cut it disassembled. He dropped his gaze. The captain spoke again, weaker now. "Miss Cole, perhaps we can de-escalate." "You already did," she said, "by taking authority you didn't have." Carla's voice returned, efficient and surgical. "Miss Cole, corporate has confirmed suspension of Captain Daniel Pierce pending investigation. His clearance badge will deactivate upon landing." Gasps rippled through the rows. The captain's jaw fell open. "You can't." "I already did," she answered softly. Behind her, Mia's shoulders trembled, tears threatening but not falling. Ariana turned to her. "You did the right thing. Integrity isn't small. It's just quiet until someone listens." Passengers began to clap, hesitant at first, then growing, the rhythm of justice finally catching up. Victor sank into his seat, face pale, staring at the floor. The captain stepped back, words gone, and Ariana, still standing, reached for the intercom above the aisle. "Attention, passengers," she said, her voice echoing through the cabin like a calm verdict. "This flight will remain grounded until a full review is complete. Thank you for your patience and for your witness." Then, lowering the mic, she added quietly, not to the crowd, but to history itself. "Grounded doesn't always mean stopped. Sometimes it means reset." For a long moment, no one breathed. The only sound was the low hum of the grounded engines, a quiet reminder that power had shifted hands. Ariana lowered the intercom, her eyes scanning the cabin not with anger, but assessment. She had seen this before, the moment when arrogance collapses under its own weight. "Carla," she said softly, "confirm personnel updates." Her voice came through the earpiece, crisp as steel. "Captain Daniel Pierce suspended. Passenger Victor Haynes restricted from future Cole Air flights. Statement logged, time-stamped, and certified by HQ Legal." A whisper spread through first-class awe, disbelief, vindication. Victor's hands shook. "You can't blacklist me. I'm a platinum member." Ariana looked at him evenly. "Then you understand what loyalty means. It works both ways." He slumped back in silence. Mia, standing by the galley, pressed her palms together like she was steadying herself. "Miss Cole," she said quietly, Thank you. Nobody's ever stood up like that, especially not from the top. Ariana's tone softened. Justice isn't vertical, Mia. It just takes longer to reach some levels. The captain took one step forward, desperate, stripped of command but still clinging to posture. Miss Cole, please. My career, Ariana stopped him with a glance, was built on judgment, not safety. That's not a career. That's a pattern, Carla's voice returned. Ground control has acknowledged the hold order. Media outlets are requesting confirmation of your presence on board. Ariana exhaled slowly, a half sigh, half measure of control. Prepare a statement. Title it, Cole Air Flight 327. Incident Leadership Accountability. Keep it factual. No outrage. Understood. The officer who had approached her earlier cleared his throat. Miss Cole, for what it's worth, I'm sorry. We walked in thinking we knew the story. She gave a faint nod. Everyone does. Until they meet the footnote that rewrites it. Passengers shifted, murmuring thanks. One woman even reaching out. You shouldn't have to prove yourself like this. Ariana met her eyes. None of us should. Outside the window, the tarmac glowed under a late sun orange light washing over metal wings. The scene looked peaceful, but inside, the balance of power was still recalibrating. Carla's voice came again, low and certain. Miss Cole, PR requests a closing line for the official report. Something to quote. Ariana looked toward the camera of a nearby passenger still recording, her reflection caught in the dark lens. She spoke as if to everyone watching, and everyone who ever would. Grounded flights can fly again, she said, but grounded truth that stays. And today, it finally landed. Silence. Then, one by one, people began to clap again, not out of spectacle, but out of recognition. Ariana didn't smile. She didn't need to. She simply turned, adjusted her jacket, and walked back to seat 2 amperes. Her seat. When she sat down, she wasn't claiming victory. She was reclaiming normal. By the time the jet bridge locked, the story had already left the plane. Phones were uploading. Hashtags were forming. Number seat. 2A number. Cole Air Justice. Number flying while black. The terminal outside shimmered with screens, each one replaying the same 45 seconds, the captain's tone, the touch on Ariana's jacket, the calm that followed. Truth had gone viral before she even unbuckled her belt. Ariana remained seated, still in 2 amperes, as ground staff entered quietly, eyes wide, posture reverent. They weren't there to remove her. They were there to apologize. Miss Cole, one of them said carefully, the press is gathering outside the gate. Would you like a private exit? Ariana shook her head. No, not today. Let them see what accountability looks like. Mia approached slowly, still in uniform but no longer uncertain. I told them everything, she said, every detail. They're listening this time. Ariana's gaze softened. Good. The truth doesn't need polish, just witnesses. Outside the cabin, passengers were still murmuring. Some shook her hand as they passed. One man whispered, My daughter's gonna see this tonight. She needs to. Ariana nodded. Then make sure she sees the calm, not the chaos. Carla's voice came through again, faint under the hum of the engines shutting down. Miss Cole, media outlets are quoting your statement. Grounded truth is trending in 7 countries. A small exhale, almost a smile. Let it trend for the right reason. A security supervisor stepped in. Ma'am, Captain Pierce has been escorted to corporate HQ for questioning. Keep it respectful, Ariana said simply. Justice isn't revenge, it's repair. The officer nodded and left. A journalist's voice filtered in from the jet bridge, calling through the open cabin door. Miss Cole, any message for the public? Ariana rose from her seat, smoothing the crease on her sleeve like it mattered. She turned toward the doorway, her silhouette framed against the fading daylight outside. Record this clearly, she said. Prejudice travels fast, but so does truth. And from this day on, they'll meet at the same gate. Click. The cameras flashed. The hallway echoed. Somewhere, a traveler watching from another airport paused mid-step and smiled. Back inside the cabin, Mia lingered near the aisle. You think they'll change? She asked softly. Ariana glanced back at her. They will. Maybe not today. But the next time someone like me sits in 2 amperes, they'll think twice before asking her to move. She reached for her bag, the leather gleaming against the cabin light, and stepped off the plane without looking back. Outside, the crowd parted not out of fear, but respect. And as the cameras kept rolling, the story stopped being about a seat. It became about a standard. 2 days later, The skyline behind the Cole Air headquarters looked cleaner than the sky itself. Reporters lined the marble atrium, cameras balanced on shoulders, mics bearing logos from every network that had once doubted her. Ariana walked in alone, no PR escort, no teleprompter, just her and a folder that contained nothing but a single page, her statement. The first question came fast, sharp, impatient. "Miss Cole, what do you say to people who think this incident was exaggerated for attention?" Ariana didn't blink. "Attention," she said, "isn't the problem. Ignorance is." The camera didn't create that moment, it exposed it. Flashbulbs popped. Another reporter shouted, "Do you believe racism is still this common in corporate travel?" She paused, letting the silence stretch long enough to make the room uncomfortable. "When you live it," she said, "it's not common, it's constant." The words hit like a clean verdict. No anger, no theatrics, just truth, shaped by experience and delivered with surgical calm. A journalist from the Chronicle raised her hand. "Why didn't you speak out sooner? You own the airline. You could have enforced change years ago." Ariana nodded slowly. "Because change without exposure is decoration. Systems only listen when the silence costs them something." Carla stood in the corner, tablet in hand, eyes proud but cautious. She whispered a reminder through Ariana's earpiece. "Media reach at 12.4 million and climbing." Ariana's reply was almost private. "Good. Then they're finally watching." The moderator called for the last question. A young woman near the front, barely out of journalism school, held her mic tight. "Miss Cole, what did it feel like that moment when they told you to move?" Ariana's gaze softened. "It felt familiar," she said. "Because every time I've built something, someone tried to move me out of it. My seat, my company, my story." She took a slow breath. "But that day, I realized something simple. The seat isn't what gives you worth. Staying in it does." The room went still. No pens moved. No phones buzzed. Even the cameras seemed quieter, like the sound engineer had turned down the world. Ariana gathered her folder, closing it gently. "To anyone who's ever been told to move," she said, "don't shout, don't shrink. Just stay long enough for truth to arrive." Then she stepped away from the podium, heels striking the marble floor in slow, certain rhythm. Outside, the sun cut through glass, scattering light across her path like the world had been waiting for her to walk through it. By the end of the week, the world had memorized her name. News anchors said it with a mixture of awe and discomfort. Ariana Cole, the woman who grounded a flight and lifted a conversation. Clips from Flight 327 were now part of training modules, leadership conferences, ethics summits. Airline executives used her quotes like scripture. Grounded doesn't mean stopped. It means reset. Every repetition turned the words from defiance into doctrine. Cole Air's inbox overflowed with messages, thousands from strangers, employees, and passengers who had stayed silent in their own moments of humiliation. A retired pilot wrote, "I've seen what Captain Pierce did 100 times. I just never saw anyone stop it before." A student from Johannesburg messaged, "I used to dream of flying. Now I dream of leading." Ariana read every 10th letter, never rushing, never skipping the pain between the lines. When the day's last email faded, she looked out over the city through her glass office wall. Downtown shimmered in dusk, the skyline a mirror of her composure, unbroken, illuminated, calm. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Mia stepped in, no longer trembling, uniform jacket folded neatly over her arm. "Ma'am," she said, "I wanted to thank you. HR reinstated me, and they asked me to join the ethics board." Ariana turned from the window, smiling faintly. "Congratulations. You didn't just witness change, Mia. You became it." The younger woman hesitated. "It still feels strange. Everyone treats me different now." Ariana nodded. "That's the thing about truth. It changes how people see you, even before it changes who they are." Mia looked down. "Do you ever get tired of fighting?" Ariana exhaled softly. "Every day. But then I remember it's not fighting if you're just standing where you belong." The room fell into quiet understanding. Mia's eyes glistened, but she smiled. "I kept the manifest from that day," she said. "As a reminder." "Keep it," Ariana replied. "Not as proof you were there." Mia left the office with shoulders straighter than when she'd entered. Ariana returned to her desk, where a small box sat unopened, a delivery from the Cole Air communications team. Inside was a silver model plane, engraved with 5 words, "Seat 2 amperes, always reserved for truth." She traced the letters with her finger. Outside, night settled over the skyline, steady and soft. The city lights blinked like runway markers guiding something home. A month later, the boardroom of Cole Air looked different, not in design and tone. Every executive, every regional head, every manager sat facing the woman whose silence had grounded their most profitable route. Ariana entered without announcement. No entourage, no applause. The projector behind her displayed a single slide. Protocol 6. Permanent. She stood at the head of the table, calm and clear. What happened on Flight 327, she began, wasn't an exception. It was exposure. No one moved. Her voice carried through the room like an instrument not loud, but tuned perfectly to consequence. For years, she continued, our policies protected convenience, not conscience. That ends today. She tapped the tablet in her hand. The next slide appeared a timeline of new measures. Bias review committees, anonymous crew reports, mandatory cross-cultural training, immediate suspension clauses. Each bullet point wasn't a rule. It was a scar rewritten as structure. An executive at the far end raised his hand hesitantly. Miss Cole, won't these changes slow operations? Ariana looked at him evenly. If fairness slows you down, you were never flying straight. A quiet murmur of agreement rippled across the table. Carla, seated nearby, passed her a new memo. The Department of Transportation has requested access to our audit system. They're calling it a national model. Ariana nodded. Give it to them. Let what we learned stop somewhere else before it happens again. She turned to the glass wall behind her. The city stretched beneath the clouds, planes rising, shrinking into distance. Every takeoff is a second chance, she said softly. But only if everyone on board feels they belong in the sky. Carla smiled. You know they're already teaching the Ariana standard in aviation ethics courses? Ariana's tone stayed measured. Good. But make sure they teach the mistakes, not just the recovery. She faced the table again. We're not here to celebrate an incident. We're here to make sure there's no sequel. Across the room, a young manager spoke up. Ma'am, passengers have been sharing stories online, people who finally feel safe flying again. They call it the 2 amperes effect. Ariana allowed herself a small, genuine smile. Then it worked, she said, because dignity isn't a headline, it's a habit. The meeting adjourned without applause, as if everyone understood the silence was the real respect. As Ariana walked out, Carla whispered, You know, most people would have turned that flight into a lawsuit. Ariana replied quietly, and lost the lesson. She paused at the elevator doors. Power isn't payback, Carla. It's prevention. The doors closed behind her with a soft metallic sigh, final, decisive, and clean. It was early morning at Gate 4. Same airport, same terminal, different gravity. Ariana stood by the glass wall overlooking the runway, the same one that had once held a plane she'd refused to leave. The sky outside was soft, unthreatening. Planes lifted into it with a kind of grace she hadn't noticed in years. Beside her stood Mia, now in a tailored Navy suit, her crew badge gleaming. You really came back, Mia said, half smiling. Ariana nodded. Every place that tried to break you deserves to see you whole again. A boarding announcement echoed through the hall. Families gathered, travelers hustled, laughter carried over rolling suitcases. Normalcy the luxury she had fought for. They walked toward the gate where a new sign had been installed. Collier Flight 327, the inaugural equality route. Below it, a plaque read, dedicated to those who stayed seated until truth arrived. Mia's eyes shone. You named the route after that day? Ariana smiled faintly. No, the passengers did. An elderly woman nearby recognized her and approached cautiously. Miss Cole, I was on that flight. I wanted to say thank you. Ariana's expression softened. You don't owe me thanks. You were part of the witness. That's what changed everything. The woman nodded. I still remember how quiet you were. You didn't yell. That's the thing, Ariana said, looking out at the runway. They expect us to fight loud. They never expect us to win calm. She paused, watching a jet taxi slowly pass the window. The sunlight hit its silver wings just right, like time itself was bowing. Carla's voice came through her earpiece, warm and steady. Media wants a closing comment for the documentary, Miss Cole. Just one line. Ariana didn't turn. Tell them this, she said. Dignity doesn't announce itself. It just sits down and refuses to move. Mia smiled. That's perfect. Not perfect, Ariana corrected gently. Just true. The gate attendant called final boarding. Ariana stepped forward, ticket in hand seat assignment. 2 amperes. Mia hesitated. You're flying today? Ariana looked at her, calm, assured. Always. She scanned her pass and walked down the jet bridge. The hum of engines grew louder, familiar, welcoming. As she reached the cabin door, passengers turned their heads, some recognizing her, some not. She smiled politely, placed her bag in the overhead bin, and took her seat. 2 amperes, the quiet revolution that never stopped flying. Outside, the plane began to taxi. Clouds parted like curtains, and as sunlight poured through the window, Ariana rested her hand on the armrest, steady, still the same posture, the same power, but a world transformed around it. The story had come full circle, and for once, the sky felt honest.